It's a very difficult situation for the auto companies. You know, the word tariff sounds okay if you're talking about economics, but it's a political tax. And it raises the prices of cars, it raises the prices of parts, it hurts our competitiveness, it will reduce the number of cars sold, it really raises unemployment. And the other problem is that even if it's negotiation, the effect is uncertainty for the manufacturers and trying to develop plans for the future. So really there aren't many benefits for the car companies.
Bob, it's great to have you with us as well, albeit sad on remote. Where do you stand on this particular sort of threatened tactic? I sort of sense from when you've been on before, with the president and his intentions, perhaps not on his tactics. Is that fair?
Well, you know my view on this. The trade system is broken. Every other country and every other region has massive tariffs on imported cars, and ours are de minimis. And it's just like repaving a road. You know, when you repave it and you reduce the number of lanes, everybody says, oh, this is terrible. It's taking me longer to get to work. Why didn't they leave it alone? We were used to it. But when the road is potholed enough, ultimately it has to be fixed. And President Trump is trying to fix a fundamental imbalance in automotive and automotive parts trade that's been permitted to fester for decades. And that's why we have been hollowing out our industry. And the reason is, oh, everybody has imported parts. Everybody has imported parts. Of course they do. When there are barriers against our products and almost no barrier against theirs, the automobile companies are going to do what's financially interesting in the short term. That's why a lot of American suppliers no longer exist. Others are foreign owned with a lot of imported content, and the president is trying to fix it. And anytime you have a system that's fundamentally flawed and then you reach in to fix it, there's going to be short-term consequences. Would the price of imported cars, like particularly German cars, go up? Sure they would. American cars going to Germany get a total of over 30% loaded on them, and our tariffs are under 2%, and there's no federal VAT that's imposed on them. So it's totally unfair, and it's being fixed.
Well, Bob, you and I disagree about the VAT point. We've debated that before. But Jim, the tariff point absolutely stands. 10% on one side, 2.5% on the other. If these tactics in the end led to those two numbers being the same, do you think that would then lead to a big change in the sales ratios, for example, of US cars in Europe? Well, or are there other big factors at play? Sorry, Bob, hold on, Bob, to Jim. Or are there big factors in play here, like tastes, that mean all of these tactics perhaps won't end up leading to enough of a gain to have been worthwhile?
I think that's the point. A couple of things. First of all, is there fair trade? We all want fair and even trade. About 20% of U.S. exports go to Europe, and about 29% of the German exports, automobiles, come to the U.S. It's fairly balanced. We have a 25% duty on trucks. They have a duty on cars. So the playing field has to be improved. I think Bob has a point, but the fact is, what's the problem? The second issue that you get into, I think, is that the American auto companies really don't produce the vehicles that the German manufacturers make. They haven't. In fact, they're getting out of the car business, and so you don't have another pickup for the domestics. In fact, if it doesn't include the Japanese, there's the windfall. Because they do make sedans.
So it hurts American consumers, Bob. It hurts American automakers because they source a lot of parts overseas. It hurts European automakers. Who does this help?
Well, first of all, beloved old Jim Press was using percentages. 20% of American exports go to Europe. There are practically no U.S. exports of automobiles, and the Germans pour vehicles into here. And on that VAT, I continue to insist, if the German producers paid the VAT for vehicles that are exported, I wouldn't have a problem with it, because that would equalize the cost base.
But that's not a sales tax then. It is a sales tax. And it applies equally to US cars sold in Europe as it does German cars in Europe as it does French wine and Californian wine. So it's not part of the tariff debate. You can criticize Europe as being a high-tax socialist place if that's what your argument is, but it's irrelevant on the trade debate.
A German vehicle
Whereas there's a lot of grounds on the
10
10 versus 2.5% tariff, which you should focus on because it's very legitimate.
A German vehicle exported to the United States carries only a partial tax load because it doesn't pay the VAT. It comes to the States and there is no federal VAT here. An American vehicle that's exported has all the taxes embedded in it, and it goes to Europe and it gets another 20% socked on it. That's why American cars are 40% more expensive in Europe than they are in the States, and German cars are cheaper here than they are in Germany. Something's not right. That's my point.
Well, the comparison there should be about the US cars sold in Europe and European cars sold in Europe, not US cars sold in Europe and US. Anyway, Bob, we will disagree until the cows come home about the VAT part of this, but I totally get the 10% and 2.5% tariff differential. Sarah, final question.
I just want to get a final word here. Maybe Jim Press, we'll put it to you. Is this all a matter of national security?
Well, that's the other question is there national security if we're buying Mercedeses instead of Lincolns? The fact is, it is not, in my mind, a national security issue, but more a political issue. And of course, we're trying to get leverage on improving the trade situation with our competitor countries. And that's an appropriate thing to do. But what tool you use? Are you using a shotgun to take out a molar, or using pliers
right.
to
I mean,
take
Bob,
out a molar?
that's sort of where your pothole argument comes into question. I get the idea that nobody likes to fix potholes, but it's good if we have better roads. We're talking about, though, confronting our closest allies, Germany, Italy, the UK, Japan, with the national security threat and raising tariff rates on their beloved industry.
Well, you know, just because they're our allies and we trade with them doesn't mean we have to accept everything that's done. And we gave the store away about 30 or 40 years ago when Europe needed the help and Japan needed the help and everybody needed the help, and we were so rich and powerful we could afford it. Well, now we're at the same level as everybody else, and we're facing tariff barriers around the world for our products, and we have essentially none. So as far as I'm concerned, President Trump is going to fix him, and God bless him for that. Fix it, and God bless him for that.
All right, guys. Thank you both for weighing in.